What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, yesterday, Sony unveiled the name and price point for their Project Q handheld, and this caused quite a bit of discussion online, but we'll go over everything we learned from Sony here today. Also, we are going to be talking about the Nintendo Switch and security, as it appears there is a pretty big pushback against emulation from, well, a company I'm sure you've heard of before on the PC side. And we'll also be taking a look at Armored Core 6. It's out later this week, and reviews went live, and whew, looks like FromSoft is not messing around. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if new here to the SpawnWave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. We're going to start today with STALKER 2, which going into Gamescom, we kind of figured we would hear something about this game, considering it would be at least part of Xbox's showcase, mentioned in some of their marketing on the lead up to the event. And we did indeed get some information as to when we can expect it, but unfortunately, not an exact release date. And this was revealed in a press kit that was sent out with actually a bunch of information in there, but it does mention that we can expect this game to come out Q1 2024. So in that case, I guess just the calendar year. So we would expect sometime between January and March. And that time period is starting to fill up a bit, as we're going to mention here with another game here soon. But I do think this could be a title that would make a lot of sense in March. And of course, it is just going into Game Pass day one. So it's just an added benefit for that subscription. But it is really a culmination of things for that studio, so I'm hoping we get to see that game make its big debut in Q1, because it's one that obviously Stalker fans have been looking forward to for a while, but I'm sure it's also something that the studio that's been going through quite a bit is ready to get out there to gamers. Also, we did get a release date and some pricing details around Persona 3 Reload, which we can see this over on Gamatsu. There's also a full trailer that was dropped, and this is coming out February 2nd, which, by the way, is the day after Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, so go figure. There are tough times for RPG fans trying to figure out the time to play both of these games. But I do also want to point out the base price is indeed $69.99, so that's Atlas making that push for that $70 price point. This coming out on the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, PC through Steam, and the Microsoft Store, because remember, this is going into Game Pass day one, and they do have special editions and all kinds of stuff, of course, to kind of celebrate the big Persona 3 remake here that they're doing. I mean, the game looks good, like visually speaking, and also some of the added adjustments and different things they've done to refine the game, and I am looking forward to it, but I am also interested in relinks. It's going to be tough, as I mentioned, just finding time for both of these games, but I will certainly be picking up Persona 3 Reload. I'll probably actually check it out in Game Pass, and then also pick up a physical copy for it, maybe on the PlayStation 5. Oh, and here was an interesting announcement that just kind of popped up on Twitter randomly. We can see this over on the Call of Duty account, saying that prepare for drop-in, Lara Croft is coming to Call of Duty. I think this makes a lot of sense. We've seen some, we'll say, interesting crossovers for Call of Duty. I mean, they had one with the boys, which is like Starlight was in there, Black Noir and Homelander, and we've seen different rappers and stuff be in the game, which is all fine, but I actually think having Lara Croft drop in for Call of Duty with the dual pistols, which if you've played Call of Duty, I mean, you're gonna come up against a lot of akimbo builds, so I think this is pretty cool. I don't really know when this is coming out necessarily. They didn't share details on release date or pricing or any of that, but something to keep an eye out, especially if you're a big fan of Call of Duty or been playing a lot of Warzone, of course, as we're also on the build up to what I assume to be the next big Warzone release, and then Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with what's now known as Sony and their PlayStation Portal. Yeah, this was Project Q that was originally revealed during their PlayStation experience, alongside of like those earbuds and stuff with Jim Ryan talking about all of this. But it was introduced as a remote play device, and it looked like a tablet with one half of the DualSense controller on either side. And that's still what it is, but we not only got the name as well as the pricing. It's coming in at $199.99, which I do think is, for all things considered, a good price point. I had some concerns that it could get higher than that $250, for example, but I think based on their accessory lineup right now, $199.9 is like the just right pricing. It's the same as the DualSense Edge controller, and well, that's gone on to be the best-selling accessory of the year in the NPD reports. So Sony kind of positioning this as a PlayStation 5 companion or an accessory like a controller. I think it makes a lot of sense there. Now, there were many videos posted up with hands-on time with the device, and we once again had a lot of the specs reinforced, as was already kind of described. 8-inch LCD, 1080p, 60 hertz, and there was something a bit odd about this because Sony started to talk about some of the things this device can do, and it is indeed limited to just being remote play. And when I mean limited, I mean absolutely limited. Like, it can't do anything else without a PlayStation 5. It can't even sync Bluetooth headphones. Yeah, this is where it starts to get a little dicey for me because they seem to have removed Bluetooth in favor of something called PlayStation Link. Now, there was some confusion, I'll say, around what exactly this was, and people were trying to figure out if this was like a direct connection to the PlayStation 5 for better responsiveness and stuff, as opposed to going through your Wi-Fi router. No, the PlayStation Link is a wireless connection, but it's specifically a wireless connection they have set up to their Pulse Explorer wireless earbuds and their Pulse Elite wireless headset. So if you want a wireless connection in terms of sound to go along with this PlayStation Portal, you will need a PlayStation Link compatible device, which would be one of these two. So you're going to be spending, well, $150 or $200, which feels incredibly unnecessary. And Sony's trying to do some marketing speak here to say, oh, this is the only way we get the latency just right and have the audio be completely immersive to you and all that. But then you can also just plug in a pair of headphones to the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. But if you want the wireless audio, I mean, you gotta use this PlayStation. It's shades of what they did with something like the PlayStation Vita with that proprietary storage. So I don't know about that one, Sony. But yes, there is technically a headphone jack, so you can use just regular earbuds if you still want to get sound out of it without annoying the people around you. As for battery life, they say it's comparable to the DualSense controller, which I know there's a lot of jokes and memes about it being like 3 hours long, but really a DualSense controller is like 6 or 7 hours. Will this get that? Well, I'm sure we'll be seeing plenty of battery tests because remember, it has a lot to do with the volume level for the tablet portion of it, as well as the screen brightness. So there's a lot going into that part of it, but the device, it does have to go through Wi-Fi, your router, to connect to the PlayStation 5 and just basically remote play off that, as there will be no compatibility with cloud streaming. So we've heard a lot of talk around what Project Kronos and all this in the background with Sony and how they're preparing that for next year to launch at the latest. Apparently this won't be equipped for that from the start, so it will all be played off of your PlayStation 5 system, which feels like a bit of a misstep there as well, because I know this is coming out technically before that's ready, but there are things you can stream off of PlayStation Plus Premium right now. I'm thinking of things like the PlayStation 3 games and stuff, sure, but you feel like you set this up for the future so that, yeah, technically you can buy this device and not need a PlayStation 5, because I'm telling you now, there's going to be confusion during Christmas time or holidays when a lot of gift giving is happening. I see parents, grandparents, whoever, buying this, thinking they're getting a handheld PlayStation 5 system for the kids, and not going to be a fun time when people are unwrapping those presents on Christmas Day. But really the big thing, I see people kind of go, why is Sony even making this? Well, if you look at the PlayStation 5 console, that's at the center of everything Sony doing right now anyway. So this is just another device to accompany that and essentially give you a way to play your PlayStation 5 system and remain plugged in if someone else wants to use the TV. And I've seen a lot of comments out there, and it makes sense to me, that yeah, you would like to have access to your PS5 even if someone like your kids or spouse or whoever is using the TV. Maybe you want to watch something but also still play your PlayStation 5. This will be a way for you to do this. Now, I'm not really sure what the quality is going to be like. I've experienced remote play. Hasn't been the greatest thing in the world for me, so I'm hoping that maybe there's some kind of trickery here or something that Sony has set up because it's expected hardware working with expected hardware. But hey, we'll find out because I will be picking one of these up to try it out. We'll do a teardown and test out remote play all of that. So if anything, yeah, it's a way for you to play your PS5 without your TV necessarily, while still maintaining your PlayStation 5 DualSense, things like vibration or the haptic feedback, the adaptive triggers and all that, which is something that no other remote play has been able to do really so far. Next up, let's talk about Armored Core 6, as reviews went live yesterday, and just FromSoft continues to roll along. Now, originally, the highest rated Armored Core game, I believe, was Armored Core 2 on the PlayStation 2, and that came in at a 78 on Metacritic. I fully expected Armored Core 6 to beat that, and it did it quite handily, actually. We can see this post up over on Metacritic, as it stands now sitting at an 87 that's on 48 critic reviews. I've noticed it bouncing between 87 and 88, so there's a chance it could climb back up to 88, maybe even by the time you're seeing this video. But if we take a look at the split, 47 positive, 1 mixed. And in fact, a lot of the reviews that are glowing mention the overall level design being vast and having a lot of verticality to it, feeling like you are completely in control of your core as you jet around, but also the ability to customize your core as you would like. And apparently that is a common theme throughout. You will feel like, okay, I have to change this up for this one specific mission, and the game completely plays into the idea of making the core your own, which is really exciting because it is a lot of fun in these different mech games to customize and set it up how you would like, because it's probably going to be a lot different than what other people set theirs up for. So a lot of interesting conversations there as you get further in and unlock more stuff. Visually speaking, people say it looks really, really good. Of course, the only time I've seen it myself is through like video compression and stuff on YouTube. So I will be picking up Armored Core 6 this like Friday and playing it as much as I can for the podcast so I can talk a bit about it, because I've been looking forward to a new Armored Core game for a while, especially since FromSoft has kind of gone to the next level since they did Armored Core 5, which did not go over well, even with like, they did an expansion, I believe, after that. And I think For Answer was the last one I at least got somewhat into. So I'm excited to jump into Armored Core 6 and see what FromSoft has in store for me. Next up, let's talk about the Nintendo Switch and an interesting announcement around the security for the device, specifically the security for the different games that come out, which we've seen it over and over and over again. A game for the Switch, a lot of anticipation and hype is around it, and then it leaks out a week, even 2 weeks at times early, and then it just gets emulated all over the place, and it's a disaster for Nintendo. So it appears that Denuvo has taken matters into their own hands, and we can see this posted up over on Nintendo Everything, where they say, Denuvo now registered as authorized Switch middleware, which is, it's interesting for a number of reasons. Now, this is apparently the first security partner on the portal, as is mentioned here by Nintendo Everything. Developers can access the official Nintendo Switch emulator protection now. Denuvo says it's a revolutionary technology to protect games launching on Nintendo Switch from piracy. So they say that the technology integrates seamlessly into the build toolchain with no impact on gaming experience. It then allows for the insertion of checks into the code, which blocks gameplay on emulators. So it is interesting, one, that this is coming so late into the Switch's life, although Denuvo might be trying to set themselves up for the next generation system from Nintendo, as, I mean, everyone was kind of late to the party. Okay, a lot of people, developer-wise, were late to the party for the Switch, even Denuvo, who appears to have recognized a problem that Nintendo's been facing, and they're attempting to solve it. I question what they say when it's like, oh yeah, it's not going to affect game performance. I mean, we've seen what happens with PC, where there's a lot of issues from Denuvo being a part of it, a lot of CPU calls and questionable checks, we'll say, at like the admin level for your PC. And then the company, the publisher, removes it a month or two later. Oh, all of a sudden, all those weird frame skips you were getting in the game or just bogged down performance, yeah, it's all gone. It's fine now. So we'll see, because right now, more than ever, the developers, the studios creating these Switch titles are squeezing as much as they can out of the system. Somehow, I don't think adding Denuvo in is necessarily going to help matters, but I mean, if it helps their bottom line, I assume they'll try to make it work, but we'll see, I guess, what the first game is that announces, or just even puts it in there, that they're using Denuvo, and I guess we'll find out what happens when people try to plug it into an emulator, because, you know, this is going to be an ongoing battle, I'm sure, between the homebrew community and Denuvo over playing these Switch games through emulator. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about some awesome remasters that got announced from the studio behind Quake 2 Remastered, which is an awesome remaster. If you've not played it, it is completely worth what, like the $10 for the game, or hey, it's right in Game Pass. You can download it. This, of course, from Night Dive Studios, as they are now tackling two games I remember very fondly. One in particular, though, I really enjoyed the series, and we can see some of the trailers here, starting with Turok 3. Yeah, Turok 3 Shadow of Oblivion. Wow, that's like nostalgia overload there for the Nintendo 64. And then the other one, Star Wars Dark Forces, the first one, and coming back to that in a second here. Each game will include support for up to 4K at 120 FPS. They have all kinds of improvements and features from modern systems like gyro support, for example. And we're seeing right now Turok 3 go to Xbox One, Series X, Series S, PlayStation 4, 5, Switch, the whole deal. So as Night Dive likes to do, they're hitting basically all the platforms. And Dark Forces, we don't have a release date on, but for Turok 3, November 17th. So it's really cool to see that for Turok, as we've seen the other Turok games make their way to current platforms. But Dark Forces, I mean, this was during like the old days of first-person shooters with like Duke Nukem and stuff, right? It's of course entry into the Star Wars universe. Dark Forces 2 Jedi Knight is an awesome game. I would absolutely love to see Night Dive do the remaster treatment for that game, and it almost feels like they're maybe trending in that direction. I mean, look what they've done with Turok, right? They did all the Turok games, now up to 3. They've done Quake 1, Quake 2, maybe Quake 3's next, but they clearly have a bit of a pattern set up. And I'm looking over a Jedi Knight that has some, sure, they're very, very dated now, but the cutscenes that, if you look at what they've done with Dark Forces, they've taken that and upscaled and remastered and retouched them so they look significantly better. There's a lot of possibilities for Jedi Knight, and I hope they do eventually make their way to it, because I will not only buy it digitally, I will buy it physically, whatever awesome collector's edition they have, because that just goes back to the old days for me. I think it was like Christmas '98 when I got the PC version for it, and I just played that game to death. Awesome title with Kyle Katarn. So recommend checking it out if you have a PC that can actually play it. Not like the specs are high, but the game likes to break on current Windows and all that. But hey, exciting stuff here. Loved seeing what Night Dive has, because they keep hitting really, really well with these remasters, and I'm curious what they have coming up for us in the future as well. Keep an eye out, though, for that Jedi Knight announcement, and if it does happen, make sure you put that on your wish list right away. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, the PlayStation Portal is coming in at $199.9. and will be set up to remote play from your PS5. Are you picking one up? 91% say no, 9% say yes. So I don't think this accessory is gonna sell incredibly well for Sony or anything like that, although it might sell better than the PSVR 2, but it's also not as expensive, so sure. Maybe on par with the DualSense Edge controller, which, as I mentioned, best-selling accessory of the year so far in the MPD charts. This is one that I think does have a certain use case, but as I mentioned, there are people who are like, oh, this makes a lot of sense for me, and then others who are just like, why would Sony make this? So interesting contrasting opinions there, and like I said, I'll be checking it out, and I'm just curious, one, how it feels, but two, how exactly it performs with remote play in less than ideal circumstances, because based on some of those hands-on previews, it was set up completely in favor of this device working perfect. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from The Juice says, Jeff handled that situation well. He could have been seriously hurt. More beefed up security is needed. I sort of observed this over the last day or two on Twitter with developers or people who would represent these studios on stage, definitely expressing concern about how easy it seems to be for people to just kind of walk up on stage. And it's tough right now because Jeff clearly has security, but they're not necessarily springing into action fast enough. And really, is there any concern or fear from these people's sides of just going up there and say it looks fun to them right now? Because if you go on an NFL field and you just run out there having fun, the players will just tackle you into oblivion. Somebody's gonna take a shot at you, right, to send the message. And I mean, I don't know if that's what Jeff needs, is a big security guard who just like, isn't super nice about getting them off stage necessarily to send the message of like, oh, okay, wow, that's not That's not very fun to run up there anymore. Next time, I won't just make my way up on stage and talk about Bill Clinton in GTA 6. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here. Today was the PlayStation Portal. How do you feel about the pricing, the features, and the lack of Bluetooth? And then also, what about Armored Core 6 with those reviews? Are you picking it up this week? And Denuvo, how do you think that's gonna work out on the Switch? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.